Welcome to my podcast, where we are going to talk about a lifestyle with dogs and throw in a few life lessons along the way. Whether you're a hound hunter, bird dog enthusiast, running setters, pointers, retrievers, or a flat-out running dog junkie, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Heath Hyatt, a certified law enforcement canine trainer with over 3 decades of personal and professional training and handling experience. It's time for me to pay it forward. So grab your leads, lace up those boots, and come and join me on this lifelong process of teaching, training, and learning. Are you looking to unlock your dog's full potential and give them the best nutrition possible for peak performance? Then look no further. Inukshuk has what you're looking for. Inukshuk's nutrient-dense formulas are crafted to keep your dog's energy high and performance top-notch. Packed with premium proteins and essential fats, Inukshuk delivers the balanced nutrition your dog needs to thrive. From hunting dogs to police canines, Inukshuk is trusted by professionals. Give your dog the power of peak performance with Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of What's Up Wednesday, where we get all of our dog training know-how. Whether you're following a cold-nosed dog through the woods or just joining your first pack, there's always something in here for you. And today's going to be a good one. So we're through our first week of season. It's been a good week. Lots of mile logged. Got some young dogs, some good work. When this podcast drops, West Virginia will be in full swing. So I hope you guys over there have a good week. Tree lots of bear. Dogs do good, especially stay safe. And I'll say that we've had snow on for a couple days now. And I'm just not a fan of it. I feel like that there's bear caught that would never be caught because of the snow. I hate that it tears my dog's feet up, especially when you're running in the rocks and the cliffs like we do a lot of times. It's hard on them pads and them the front dew claw. It works on pretty hard. So I'm just not a fan of it all the way around. But here we go. We have it. And they're calling for more this week. So we'll just have to deal with it. Let's get into today's episode. So every hunter has that dog that they'll never forget. Right? Maybe it was the pup that lit up the woods before its baby teeth was even gone. Or maybe it was that slow, awkward youngster that everybody wrote off. We've had those. Until one night it proves everybody wrong. In the world of hound hunting, timing is everything. Some dogs start early. Some take their sweet time. And both paths can lead to greatness or disappointment. So today, we're going to dig into the stories, the myths, and those hard-learned lessons behind early starters and those slow burners. If you've ever wondered whether that young pup is ahead of the curve or just being too quick to start, or that late bloomer might just be the best dog you've ever owned, this episode is all for you. We're going back in time a little bit. September 26th, 1997. I bet you some of you guys weren't even born yet. There was a litter of puppies born. Walker puppies at that. They were out of the famous Sackett Jr., Frank Giddings, and a dual grand champion locally named Pine Creek Candy. Now, back then, I was hunting plots. I was hunting my old brandy female, and I had bred her to couple I bred to Outlaw and had a really nice litter of pups out of them. and I'd kept 2 of those pups. But my mentor, you've heard me talk about him before, old Pappy, he gave me one of those Walker pups. A young male, well, he's a puppy, male dog. Blanket back on one side and had 3 dots on the other, 3 big rocks. So I was going to call him Third Rock to the Sun, but I didn't. I ended up calling him Heights Creek Side Pine Creek Rock. But he had a nickname that he got, and we called him Pooh, like Winnie the Pooh, Pooh. Pooh, that's what we called him. How he got his name was, at that point in time, I was living at home, and I didn't have an extra kennel. I didn't have a handful of dogs. Didn't have nowhere to keep him, so he stayed in the house. More or less, he stayed in the garage a lot. And when I was at work, he would poop everywhere. So my dad nicknamed him Pooh. He's all the time pooping. That's how he got his name. At 4.5 months old, I had hung a coon up that I had killed the night before in the fork of a walnut tree up in the barn lot. And this 4.5-month-old pup would follow me up the hill. I had to climb a pretty big hill to get back to the barn lot when I could feed. And I had laid the coon up the night before. So I was out doing my chores, feeding and watering, cleaning the pens. I didn't have pens back in, they were tied out. But I was cleaning up around them. This dog fell treed on that coon. He sat down at that tree and just started knocking them down. Now, I'm 3 years into my hunting career. I started in 94. I bought some older dogs. And when I bought Brandy, she was a year old. And she was already going. So you can imagine my disbelief. I'm like, oh, okay. So old Pooh, he's plucking off, man. Sitting down on his hind end, just as pretty as you please. And then he'll stretch out up on a tree, and then he'll sit back down. So after my starstruck phase moment, I went ahead and continued doing my chores. And I always kept my food and stuff in the Dad had a chicken house, and on the end of the chicken house was a feed room. So I always kept my dog food stuff in there. So I finished up chores and went up, put stuff away, and started over the hill, thinking the pup would just come on with me. Went down to the house and eat supper. Come back, that pup still locked up on that tree, clicking them. I physically picked him up, carried him down to the house, put him in the garage. That pup, I started hunting by himself at 8 months old. Now, guys, remember, back then there wasn't social media. There wasn't, so much way to communicate and learn and do that. I mean, YouTube wasn't even a thing. So at 8 months old, I started hunting this pup by himself. And I was treeing some coons here and there. And one night, he was 10 months old. I can remember this vividly. 10 months old. I was hunting down a river bottom, and I had treed 3 coons that night. And at the last coon he was treed in a little flat, and there was a bank right beside the tree. And I sat down on that bank, and I was looking at that dog treeing on that tree, just like he was the day that I pulled him off the walnut tree. And I told myself, I was talking to myself, and I said, I'm going to win a world championship with you. Never seen anything like it before. Nothing. Consistently at 10 months old was going out and treeing coons. Now, was he still young and make some mistakes? Yep. But consistently treeing coons from that point forward. And that dog went on to win state hunt, granded out extremely fast. And back then, the guys that hunted back then, Phil will remember this really well. You had to be the high scoring dog of the hunt to get the first place. And the same thing with the grand. You had to win the overall grand cast. So if there's 2 or 3 casts, you had to win, have the high points. Now listen, guys, I'm hunting in Southwest Virginia. At that point in time, if you treat two coons a night, you had 450 plus. You had a good night. You had a really good night. And if you somehow scored 3 coons, you was beating down the door. And it took me 14 cast wins to grand that dog out from night champion to grand. So I'll tell you this to talk about early starters. Multiple people tried to buy that dog from me. Multiple people at a very young age. People that hunted with him were in awe. And I'm definitely not bragging about the dog. I'm just telling you, at that point in time, my vision and what I was seeing was unreal. Before I ever got into dog training, remember that's 2005. We're 7 years in front of that. So I want to examine the early starters. So the pros of an early starter, man, it's exciting. And it keeps you motivated. You want to go out and you want to hunt. You know, those pups are showing interest in scent or game, very young. Keeps us engaged. Keeps us wanting to go, motivated. They progress fast. They start opening. They tree earlier than their litter mates. They give you a really good look at the potential at a young age. They're easier to evaluate, right? An early start can help you identify the talent, the natural instincts, and you don't have to wait till they're a year old or a year and a half, whatever it may be. You see it like, bam, there it is. And it's extremely fun for us as handlers, whether you're a new handler, whether you're somebody that's been in the game for a long time. They make training feel rewarding right out of the gate. All right, turn this dog loose, bam, there he goes. Doom, treeing coons, treeing bear, whatever it may be. But it keeps it fun. It keeps us engaged. It keeps us motivated with those early starters. What about the cons of it? This is something that I've seen. The risk of burnout. Some of those early starters peak young and they mentally check out. And I will tell you this about Pooh. At 18 months old, when I granded him, he was what he was. He ain't any better. He hit his prime right then. Boom. That was it. So 18 months old, you got what you got. Is that a good thing? Depends on how we look at it. We can go either way with that, right? They can develop bad habits. And I've seen this. They start opening too soon, battling behind the bigger dogs trying to keep up. They start running trash, being overly excited. And that makes them harder to correct. An early starting dog cannot guarantee that he becomes a top tier finished dog. Some of them level off. They plateau. And I think one of the things that we overlook as a handler, it kind of gives us that overconfidence that we expect too much from a young dog. And then we start pushing. And then the dog collapses. Right? It happens. We've talked about it on podcasts. We've talked about it with people. It happens. You are so excited that you're hunting a dog 6-7 nights a week, however your laws allow you to do it. And bam, 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 bam. And that dog really never has a chance to mature and to grow up, just be a pup sometimes. So that's on us that we expect too much. And I'm guilty of that. Like I have very high expectations and I get disappointed a lot. But I'm also able to rationalize in my head on the drive home or the next day when I'm sitting around just trying to play things back. And then I'm like, yeah, okay, I know this. And then in the 99, 2000 range, trying to play it back. It was 2000. I get a dog named Smokey. And if you go back and listen to some of the podcast, I talk about Smokey. When I talk about the dogs that don't get some credit. You've heard me talk before. Smokey was the best built dog that I've owned. I felt like he could have won a world show champion. His conformation was that good. Had feet on him like a cat. Legs, shoulders, rear end. We've talked about it. So I got Smokey at about 4 months old and started taking him out that training season. And really didn't get nothing out of him. And then the next season rolls around. He's a year and a half old at this point. That December, I got really frustrated with him. I think you've heard me talk about how I treated a bear or two, and he didn't make it, and we had to go pick him up. And one of my good friends, Paul Hale, that hunted with me religiously back then, when we put a lot of miles on, looking for bear, looking and not finding. At one point in time, I told Paul, I said, I'm not keeping him. Like I'm not keeping him. And Paul actually was out of the woods, so I put him up. And during that course of that spring, done some drags, done some things like that with him, and still never was impressed. So the next training season rolls around, and hunted him the whole training season. The last day of training season, I had told the guy that I had got the pup from that I'm gonna give him back to you. You can have him back. I'm meeting him. He was coming off the payroll. So the last day we treat a bear down a creek right beside a bed or right beside a road. The bear comes out. The dogs run it down the creek another 100 yards. We get into that one. The bear comes out again and goes to the third tree. And that dog is sitting there just pretty as you please, sitting back on his rear end, just bringing he's a super nice tree dog. So the last day that I was going to hand him over back to the guy that I got him from, he starts treeing. And I was like, okay, I'll give you an opportunity. I've done give you a year, but the dog was a year and a half or a little older at that point in time. Can't remember the exact dates. I'd have to go back and look at his birthday. But he was a year and a half or older. Could have been pushing 18, 19 months old. I ended up keeping that dog. And if you listen to the podcast, made one of the nicer dogs that I've owned. Run bear by himself. Probably one of the nicest tree dogs I've owned. Just a steady chop. Good mouth on him. Really good mouth on him. Easy dog to be around. He did have a quirk about him. And I never did understand this, but looking at it now through the training lens that I have, I caused it. It was a training scar from me. But he was a super nice hound. Super nice hound. And I almost let my impatience send him packing. And that would have been one of those rare cases where, you know, how every time you sell a dog or you get rid of a dog that's not suiting you, they end up being the best dog in the world. And I know y'all are laughing right now because you had it happen. Dog just wasn't cutting it in your kennel, and you sell him or give him to a friend, and man, that dog's Superman. We've all had it happen. That would have been a case where I really made a mistake if I'd have let him go. So let's talk about the slow starting hounds. And I will tell you this: they they often mature into solid, dependable dogs. You know, most of those slow starters end up being more methodical, cold nosed, and more reliable. They have fewer bad habits right out of the gate. They usually come online with more focused and maturity, which leads to cleaner work, easier handling. Let's talk about the longevity. Slow starters have better long-term consistencies, and they don't burn out. That's my experience, okay? It's not a scientific fact. That's just my experience. And just like with old Smokey, my patience that I had give him so long, it rewarded myself. It rewarded me. You know, they stick with it, and the dog is a lot of times well worth the wait. And I've got a list of those dogs that I could tell you about. Well, let's talk about the cons. It's frustrating. You know, you tell yourself, I've told myself, that dog's not going to make it. Even though it's just the simple fact that they're maturing at a different speed. They're a lot harder to evaluate. And I think that's what gets us a lot of times in trouble. You don't know what you truly have until later. And a lot of times that later is when they're in somebody else's hands. You risk of culling a really good dog early. Like I said, sometimes before they have a time to mature fully. And they're definitely not as exciting as that young pup that comes out of the gate, hooray to rail. The slow starters don't give that instant gratification. They just don't do it. So why all this comes about? Why I'm talking about early starters versus the late bloomers. This week, I have encountered both in my pack. I took a dog out that had never been out before, a pup, under a year old. The first time I turned him loose, he goes. He goes. He's there. Can I say he was 100% invested? No, but he went. Second time I turned him loose, I packed him. He went, stayed. And then I've got two dogs. Both of these, which I have contemplated on what is my next move. One of them has not done anything. Nothing. Follows me around, stays with me. They're my buddy. Highly intelligent. I love their personality. Just not cutting it. And the other one, been making races. If it's on the ground, doing what it's supposed to be doing, but I've had a hard time coming treed. They're always there. They never leave. And I think what's upset me the most with this particular dog, I know the bloodline inside and out. There's no weakness, per se, of these dogs treeing. In fact, couple generations back probably had too much in it. But just not looking up. And I've not had a great opportunity to train and help that and encourage that, because every situation has been just horrible for that purpose. And Monday, get into a tree, and he's looking up, and he's barking a little bit. And he's actually barking up. He ain't just barking because of the dogs. There's a difference. But he's barking up, barking up. And yesterday, get into the tree, he locked down. I mean, hammer down. What you want to see. And the excitement in me was overwhelming because this dog means a lot to me. I want him to be the future of my pack. And I've kept taking him, and I've kept taking him, and I've been disappointed and disappointed. Not in the first part of it, but in the second part of it. I need it to come together. And here we are. I was talking myself into getting rid of him. And now I relive the Smokey experience coming out of the woods yesterday. I'm like, that could have been bad. Let's go back to the first one I was talking about. Hadn't done anything. Had them on several bear. They're young. They're not a year old. Right at a year old, not a year old. Had them on several bear. Never really paid attention to anything. Just kind of does their own thing. And then a couple days ago, a deer jumped up in front of them as I'm walking. I've got them loose. When I say loose, my puppies. Deer jumps up in front of them. Head goes up. Ears come back, and I'm like, okay, they're gone. I didn't try to stop them. We'll talk about that real quick. 800 yards. Turn and come back. I'm like, okay, I can something. I got something out of this. Walking around the road, and dog puts its nose down, starts working the ground. It goes up the bank, and I'm like, I just had some 2-year-olds with me. I wasn't hunting any old dogs. They didn't do anything, so I kept walking, and I thought, well, they'll come on. Get around the road about 2 more curves. I don't know, 800 yards. The dog's halfway of the mountain. So I stand there for a little bit. Dog crosses the mountain. Drops out a signal. I'm at 1.2 miles. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I'm going to have to get out of here and drive around, pick them up. So I start walking, easing on towards the truck, back towards the truck. I get about 500 yards from the truck, and there they are. They come right back to me. But they went over a mile, 1.2, because that's where I lost them. So were they doing what I wanted to? Nope. I want them on bear, and I want them running and participating and being a part of the team. But that was a start. Let's go back to the deer. Why did I not go ahead and work? Just go ahead and shut that down. All right, let's go back to you cause more problems. Sometimes fixing a problem that Ross and I talked about. Well, that was one of them. Like, first thing they've done, I'm definitely not going to shut that down because I'm taking a step forward, and Dad just set me down for another month. Now, I will be a lot more careful moving forward. I don't want to encourage that, and I don't want it to become a habit. But I also seen movement forward. I started seeing, okay, now if I can do this, I can do that. So slow, very slow starting. But it started. So I was encouraged. And that's going to give them more time, more opportunity. So that's what brings this podcast into light today. Within this week, I have experienced both. One going right off the bat, 2 not so much. One in the middle. One going off the bat, one not doing nothing, and one in the middle. All right. So just want to put things to perspective. You know, a dog's start time does not predict its ceiling. And it's taken me a while to learn that. You know, the early starters give you early action, quick flashes of talent, but may or may not be able to grow into that top tier dog. Slow starters, they require patience. But many seasoned hunters will tell you that their best dogs weren't the quickest to start. They were the ones who matured at the right time. Just remember, all dogs mature differently. And it is so easy for me. And I lean towards it because I want to see that dog's potential. I want to see that dog, hey, this is what I can work with. Okay, I can build off of that at an early age. Because when I keep that slow burner to a year and a half or 2 years old, I've wasted 2 years of food and hunting, and the dog may not turn out. That is very possible. But if I go to the flip side of that, I may have that rocket launcher that comes out of the gate burning, and in a year and a half, that's what I got. 2 years, that's what I got. So, pros and cons of both. At the end of the day, every hound writes his own story. Some pups come out of the gate like they're ready for the world hunt. Pooh. I really thought I had it. And some take longer to figure out what those noses are really for. But early or slow, what matters most is patience, good handling, and giving the dog the chance to become what he's bred to be. So whether you're starting a pup that's already burning the woods up, or you've got one that's still trying to decide if he wants to hunt or chase butterflies, remember, greatness does not follow a schedule. Ask Michael Jordan. All right, guys, thanks for riding along with us today. I enjoy every conversation we have. So until next time, stay safe in the woods, keep them boots muddy, keep them dogs trailing, and we will see you at the tree.
Tailgate drops before the light, coolers packed and the rig sitting right, tracking collars charged, beeping green, boots in the bed and the rifle's clean. Dog box rattling, engines hum, we're chasing bear till the day is done. Old ring barking like he knows what's near, nose to the wind, tail full of cheer. From the Virginia mountains to the Carolina clay, we're burning fuel and miles each day. Every turn's another tale, through mountain mist and paper trails. We see the sunset red in Tennessee, rise through the fog in old WV. North Carolina's pines echo loud with the cry of a hard-run hound. New York forest, Maine's deep snow, Vermont valleys where the black bears go. Truck keeps rolling, wheels don't care. We're chasing daylight, chasing bear. Rest stops few, the roads are long, but the fire in our hearts still burns strong. Wisconsin mornings cutting crisp and clear, Canada's wildwoods drawing near. Still got states we ain't run, but that hound dog fever won't let us quit. We see the sunset red in Tennessee, rise through the fog in old WV. North Carolina's pines echo loud with the cry of a hard-run hound. New York frost, Maine's deep snow, Vermont valleys where the black bears go. Truck keeps rolling, wheels don't care. We're chasing daylight, chasing bear. Gas station coffee, Alpha Alpha XL on the dash. Another back road, another bear track. Friends made fast and stories told slow. Under stars where only hunters go. We see the sunrise gold in Canadian air, and it sets on a trail down in Appalachia. Packing steel and leather, grit and care. We're built for the road and chasing bear. So load the dogs and slam the gate. There's a trail ahead, we won't be late. From dawn to dusk, we're always there. Chasing daylight, chasing them bears.